On tonight's Discovering Travel Special, we'll take a look at one of Michigan's most unique travel destinations, Mackinac Island.
We're up to date technologically and things like that, but the island is still the same. It's still a place where you can come and relax and kind of go back in time.
And I stopped in at the Upper Peninsula Sportsmen's Alliance quarterly meeting at the Great Lakes Sport and Recreation Club in Escanaba, where I had the opportunity to chat with the DNR's new director, Dan Eichinger.
Conservation's in my DNA. It's how I grew up. It's how my wife and I raise our children. We live as much as we possibly can outdoors, hunting and fishing.
Stick around. That's all tonight, right here on Upper Michigan's very own Discovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone. Forest thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak. Surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields. Call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill. The eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
I first visited Mackinac Island back when I was a kid, young enough that I really don't remember much more than a cool fort and a ride on a big ship that brought us there. Many years have passed since then. I'm not really sure why, but I never put much thought into a trip back. Then in 2014, I decided to pay the island a visit during the annual Fudge Festival. Within 5 minutes, I was hooked. I never dreamt such a short boat ride could bring me so far away. The journey begins with a Lake Huron ferry ride departing from either St. Ignace or Mackinac City. Catch the right boat and you take a slight detour under the Mackinac Bridge. In the distance, a 3.8 square mile bump of land sticking out of Lake Huron. Like many historic places in the Great Lakes region, Mackinac Island's name came from a Native American language. Native Americans in the Straits of Mackinac region likened the shape of the island to that of a turtle, so they named it Michilimackinac, which translates to Big Turtle. The British shortened it to Mackinac. The minute you arrive at the dock, you find yourself in a place that seems to be suspended in time. There are no cars, just horses, buggies, and bicycles. All sorts of shops, bars, hotels, and fudge. Lots and lots and lots of fudge.
You know, during the summertime, we import a couple of tons of sugar over here a week just to take care of all the fudge making that we have to do, and 80% of that sugar comes from the state of Michigan. So it's nice that we can support the nice sugar industry that we have here in the state. And the Mackinac Island fudge is just famous, and in fact it's, flattery, they say, is imitation is the biggest form of flattery, and people try to imitate it throughout the country and the world, but there's only one really good place to get Mackinac Island fudge based on the humidity, being surrounded by these Great Lakes waters, and that's on Mackinac Island, and enjoy watching it being made, and then enjoy it even more by tasting it.
The tradition of making fudge began in the years following the Civil War, and on Mackinac Island is stronger than ever. Fudge remains the island's most popular souvenir. Over 10,000 pounds of fudge leave the island every day, coming from shops that opened their doors well over a century ago. Shops that have been family owned and operated for generations. Mackinac Island's first fudge shop is still here, serving up top quality fudge. There are at least a dozen shops downtown, creating the most mouth-watering confectionaries you can buy, and using recipes and methods that remain unchanged since their conception.
This building's been here for 150 years. We are the original fudge company on Mackinac Island, and this is the very place that it started, again in 1887. So Henry and Sarah Murdoch from Germany immigrated to the United States. And 1887 is the same time that the Grand Hotel was being built. Mr. Murdoch was a professional sail maker, so he came up to work at the Grand Hotel and make all the awnings for the building. Well, his wife, Sarah, was a confectionery and candy person. They lived in the back of this store. This store is a good 150 years old. This was a little dining area. They just did lunches and that kind of thing. And she made fudge in the back room and, sold that as desserts or whatever little treats. And then it became popular and they moved the kitchenette out and turned this into a fudge store. So this is just pure chocolate. We use a lot of sugar. All the fudge companies on Mackinac Island use a ton of sugar. All the sugar comes from basically Midland and the Bay City area. So it's a Michigan product. Our butter's made in Michigan. Our cream is made in Michigan. So probably like 90% of our ingredients are all Michigan made. And again, it's all natural. There's no imitations or flavorings, that kind of thing. The process from start to finish takes about 45 minutes from the time that you fire the copper kettle to the time that it's like finished on the marble slab. We use marble because it's very porous. It absorbs that heat. The fudge is cooked to right around 240 degrees. It's adjusted every day depending on what the temperature of water boils at. So each flavor is cooked to a different temperature, all within about 2 degrees. But we make it the old-fashioned way with all natural ingredients. And I really think everyone does a good job on Mackinac Island. And I think at a certain point, it kind of becomes a personal preference. So we like a denser. We don't like the fudge to be mushy. So there's a certain consistency, and he can just tell by looking at it and also by the feel with a paddle of when it's time to move on to the next step. I mean, he's really close to having that finished. He'll move it one more time on this side and then basically do what we call a finishing stroke, and it'll be good to go. We sell it. It cools for a little bit and it'll be sold tomorrow. So it's always less than 24 hours old, the fudge.
The island was home to a Native American settlement before European exploration began in the 17th century, and it served a strategic position as a center of the commerce of the Great Lakes fur trade. During the American Revolutionary War, Fort Mackinac was built by the British. It was the site of 2 battles during the War of 1812. Fort Mackinac, the oldest building in Michigan, along with 13 other historical structures, feature exhibits explaining everything from military training and battles to medical treatments to family life within the fort. Fort Mackinac served as home for soldiers and their families, and eventually became the headquarters for the Mackinac National Park. Following the Civil War, the island became a popular tourist destination for residents of cities on the Great Lakes. Much of the federal land on Mackinac Island was designated as the country's second national park in 1875, just 3 years after Yellowstone was named as the first national park. To accommodate an influx of tourists in the 1880s, the boat and railroad companies built hotels, including the Grand Hotel. Family-owned for 3 generations, this National Historic Landmark boasts the world's longest porch and has played host to a number of notable visitors, including 5 U.S. presidents, Thomas Edison, and author Mark Twain. The hotel opened on July 10, 1887, and took a mere 93 days to complete. At its opening, nightly rates at the hotel ranged from $3 to $5 a night. The hotel was advertised to Chicago, Erie, Montreal, and Detroit residents as a summer retreat for vacationers who arrived by steamer and by rail from across the continent. In 1957, the Grand Hotel was designated a state historic building. In 1972, the hotel was named to the National Register of Historic Places, and in 1989 was made a National Historic Landmark. Just prior to the turn of the century, souvenir shops began to spring up as a way for island residents to profit from the tourists. In 1895, all of the federal land, including Fort Mackinac, was given to the state of Michigan and became Michigan's first state park. Motorized vehicles were prohibited on the island in 1898, because of concerns for the health and safety of the island's residents and horses, after local carriage drivers complained that the automobiles startled their horses. They're still prohibited today, with the exception of emergency vehicles, service vehicles, and snowmobiles during the winter. Travel on the island is either by foot, bicycle, or horse-drawn carriage. M185, the United States' only state highway without motorized vehicles, makes a circular loop around the island, closely hugging the shoreline. Today, the entire island is listed as a National Historic Landmark, and more than 80% of the island is preserved as the Mackinac Island State Park. The island has a year-round population of around 500, which of course grows considerably during the summer months with as many as 15,000 visitors a day. While you're on the island, be sure to stop in at Mackinac Island's original butterfly house and museum. This world-renowned facility has 1,800 square feet of tropical garden filled with hundreds of live butterflies from 4 continents.
This is the oldest butterfly house in Michigan and the 3rd oldest in the nation. The blue morpho is the fan favorite. They are native to Central and South America, and we get them from one supplier in Costa Rica. We are very picky about who we do business with, so the farmers that we buy pupa from are nonprofit. When people come in, we always cater to like 4th grade education level, so we give everybody a butterfly identification chart so they can help pick out the different species. We have a huge incubator on display. There's over 700 chrysalises pinned up, and we get weekly shipments of 350, so that keeps us at a steady 800 butterflies in the garden all the time. We've also expanded quite a bit and created an insect world. We have live displays of scorpions, tarantulas, bearded dragons. We have a turtle pond, an observation beehive, and cockroach colonies. So this is Falcor. He's our bearded dragon. So we have animals that we can take out and handle to enhance the learning experience of the people who come through the butterfly house. People of all ages are learning, kids, adults, everybody. So this is a giant cave cockroach, and they're native to Central and South America. And they're not the creepy ones you find in houses. These guys are decomposers. So they feed on the fallen leaves and trees on the rainforest floor, and they help create more topsoil so that plants can grow and thrive, which is fabulous. And this is actually the largest species of cockroach in the world. So scorpions have a special chemical in their exoskeleton that makes them fluoresce under blacklight. If you're ever in the desert and you want to check your sleeping bag or your shoes before bed, bring a black light, because all scorpions, true scorpions, will fluoresce.
Springtime on Mackinac means everything is in bloom. The smell of lilac saturates every Great Lakes breeze that floats across the island. Come for a visit around the beginning of June for the annual Lilac Festival.
Well, yeah, it's a great kickoff to the season, and the island is known for lilacs, and they've been around for an awfully long time. They say that we have over 200 varieties on the island. Possibly came during the Civil War with the people that were serving up at the Fort Mackinac. And they're just beautiful. They're all over the place. It's nice people can come here, not from the rest of the Upper Peninsula, but and get a second spring, because the lilacs downstate and throughout the rest of the country, probably most of them anyway, have already come and gone, and now they get to see them again. And they get to see so many different kinds. And they'll bloom for a good 2.5 to 3 weeks. And it's just good family fun. There's a lot of stuff to do during the week, and there are shops get involved and have different themes and bring in different artists for their shops, or different manufacturers for the different types of products that they have in their stores. And we have sip and sails at night, so we have a lot of fun on the water during the festival, as we do during the rest of the season. So the festival is just a great way in a concentrated period of time to let people know of all the different things that we have to offer for tourists on Mackinac Island.
The beauty of Mackinac, the lilacs here, is that they're built into every aspect of the island. Every business, every home, they're here. Every park is covered with lilacs. And this is unique, because usually you're going to see collections of lilacs in botanical gardens and parks, and they're all clustered together. But here they're built into every aspect of life here on the island, and that's what makes it truly beautiful. Everywhere you go, uniqueness, either the way they're pruned or the species that they happen to pick, and there are 2,000 different kinds of lilacs, and you're going to see hundreds of different kinds here on the island. So it's really a unique place that you're not going to see them worked into the fabric of the actual community.
You know, we're so fortunate to have Mackinac Island where it's located, right in between the two peninsulas. It's Mackinac Island, but it really is Michigan's island. And you know, since the turn of the last century, or at least since the late 1800s, it's been an incredible destination for tourism. And you know, the things we're known for are our fudge, our horses, our history. Grand Hotel is a big iconic spot, Fort Mackinac. The narrated carriage tours, you know, those are the staples that bring people back in many a time. It's nice too when, you know, one of the biggest things that we get to see, especially this time of the early time of the year, are the students that come from all over the state and from other states. And so they get to, you know, possibly see the island for the first time while they're still a student with all their buddies and come here in 4th, 5th, or 6th grade. And then when they come back, they get to see what is the island now? Has it changed at all? And for the most part, the island really hasn't changed. You know, it's like the old saying about baseball, everything's changed, but nothing really has changed. You know, we put a coat of fresh paint on everything, and we're up to date technologically and things like that. But the island is still the same. It's still a place where you can come and relax and kind of go back in time and not only enjoy the downtown area of Mackinac Island, but you know, you can go deep into the woods if you'd like to, and with a fat tire biking, or you can go on the water with a kayak trip, or go on one of the many sunset sip and sails and the different other voyages that we have throughout the day, the sailboats, and it's nice to see that more people are taking advantage of the water that surrounds us. And you know, what a great spot. We're so close to the Mackinac Bridge, and it's so nice to be the border of the Upper Peninsula on the south side and to represent that way. But you know, people have been coming for years, and then they come for the same reasons. Obviously a big a wedding destination, probably one of the most popular in the state of Michigan, and it's a great place to have a family reunion. People tend to, once they've done something significant with their family and they've kind of marked that event, they'll come back year after year to celebrate and to remember.
The UP can boast some of the most unique and special places found anywhere. And it's all right here in our own backyard. Mackinac Island is certainly no exception. Whether you're coming to smell the lilacs, taste the fudge, or simply experience a special place that time has left alone, it would be hard to leave disappointed. On February 9th, I was at the Great Lakes Sports and Recreation Club in Escanaba for the quarterly meeting of the Upper Peninsula Sportsmen's Alliance. Now, anybody that knows me knows I'm not a meeting kind of guy. I'm here to get interviews, to find out what's happening in the outdoors of the Upper Peninsula. Why the UPSA meeting? I hear a conversation and get information on pretty much anything outdoors that affects the UP, all in one place. The UPSA began back in 1982 for the purpose of uniting sportsmen's groups for a common cause. Its thousands of members come from clubs and organizations from across the Upper Peninsula and have proven to be a substantial voice for the rights and concerns of sportsmen and women throughout the UP. Every time I attend one of these meetings, I'm amazed at how much is going on behind the scenes, how much so few are doing for the concern of so many. When I look around the room at all of the folks who are working hard, doing what they think is right, and working together to make the UP the best place it can be, I'm humbled and grateful. Whether it's fishing, hunting, shooting, or just about anything outdoors, It's good to know that this dedicated group is there, working hard to make sure our kids have exposure to all of these things, and making certain the opportunity to do all of these things never goes away. At this most recent meeting, I had the opportunity to talk with a variety of folks, including the DNR's new director, Dan Eichinger.
Well, my name's Dan. I'm the new director for the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. Really excited to be up here. For the last 4.5 years, I've been working for Michigan United Conservation Clubs. I've been the executive director there, so in that role, I've had a chance to work pretty closely with guys like Tony Domboski, folks like George Lindquist, who's MUCC's current board president. Prior to that, I spent just a couple years as an administrator with Central Michigan University. Spent about 5 years working for the Department of Natural Resources in a couple of different roles, and worked for Lieutenant Governor John Cherry as a conservation natural resources advisor to him. So I've worked in natural resources. I'm a hunter and I'm an angler. I've been, this conservation's in my DNA. It's how I grew up. It's how my wife and I raise our children. We live as much as we possibly can outdoors, hunting and fishing, boating, swimming, hiking, camping, all that good stuff. So being in this role, being in this job is a tremendous honor. Conservation's a team sport in the state of Michigan, so the way that we do our work in the department, we only do that because we're standing alongside all the folks who are using our natural resources, and it's really important for me to make sure that, that commitment to partnership, that commitment to talking, to dealing with things together, to kind of working these issues out within our conservation family is really important to me. So we're going to keep doing that. That's how we're going to be doing business here as long as I'm director. Coming up to the UP was one of the first trips that I've been able to take as DNR director. And probably the most important thing that I can do while I'm up here is to listen. God gave us one mouth and 2 ears, which means that we should probably be listening about twice as much as we're talking. So I'm happy to be here at the Upper Peninsula Sportsman's Alliance meeting. I'm going to be traveling up to Marquette for the UP Whitetails of Marquette County banquet today. And I'm just trying to meet as many people as I can and listen as much as I possibly can so that I can make sure that I'm hearing the issues, hearing the things that folks think that we're doing well, things that we need to work on, take that back to Lansing, and then keep working with our partners up here to move the ball forward, to work on those issues, to run them to ground, and make sure that we're all kind of on the same page about things.
Well, that's it for this week. Be sure to check out 906outdoors.com, where you'll find the 906 Fishing Report, TV6 weather, shopping, and more. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next week right here on Upper Michigan's very own Discovering.